Hey there. So, my next guest focusing on esports businesses with a podcast and a network of people that he has that are focused on esports businesses and how to grow and develop each other and promoting inclusivity and diversity in the space. And this was a fantastic interview. He's got a breadth and depth of knowledge that's unparalleled. I know you're all going to love this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, we have a very special guest with us. We have Trent Knox. Hey there, Trent. How's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
It is not a sunny day in Austin, Texas. It is icy and rainy. And I don't know if you heard, but we had some interesting climate going on here down in Texas.
I had not heard about Texas getting any snow and ice. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've always been told it's hot and miserable.
Oh, well, this must be a very unique situation, but yeah, it's a little bit icy outside.
Okay. All right. So, Trent, I like getting the show started just right into it. So, why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Trent Knox. I went to the University of Hawaii. I studied film and digital media out there in Hawaii. I grew up in the Austin, Texas area, so I've been here pretty much all my life. But I did get to go to the University of Hawaii. My parents were in the military and afforded me the opportunity to go out there. I graduated from there and I started to work in the television business for a little bit. Then I worked in independent filmmaking, and I still work in independent filmmaking. And also I do podcast production. I do video production and also do like some live events production stuff. And then I started Esports Business Network real recently. Well, not real recently, but in 2019, I started Esports Business Network to connect esports business professionals online and offline. And yeah, that's about it. That's me.
Beautiful. All right. We got a lot to talk about. Now, before we get into all that, though, I ask every guest a single question. So I'm going to ask you just like I ask everybody else on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high. How weird are you, Trent?
How weird am I? I guess that goes with saying I live in Austin, Texas. Austin is the weird capital of the world. I guess I'm on the scale of 10, but I got some normal things I do too. Absolutely. It varies, so I would say I'm pretty weird, but I'm also not the weirdest maybe.
Okay. I think that's the first person I've had who told me they were weird based on where they lived.
Yeah. It is called Make Austin Weird. That's the whole slogan for Austin. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this is the Gamerpreneur podcast. So I do need your gaming cred. When did you first start playing video games?
The moment that I can remember that I first started playing video games was when I don't actually, now that I think about it back, I'm not sure if Frogger came first on the PlayStation 1 or if it was Game Boy, not color, but the original Pokemon. The original Pokemon on that that gray
brick
Game Boy brick. Yeah. And then of course, I think my uncles they were into Pac-Man, so arcade games too. So I get schooled on some Pac-Man or Space Invaders, So yeah, it's either the Game Boy, original Pokemon, and Mega Man, and or Frogger on the PlayStation. My mom rented the PlayStation 1 from Best Buy back in the day. I always like to reminisce on that with people whenever I bring it up.
All right, I love it. And I'm assuming your love of gaming has continued.
Yeah, I mean,
you have a thing called the Esports Business Network.
Yeah, nowadays is a little bit different, a little bit more competitive. Call of Duty, playing on World of Warcraft, StarCraft. I dabble in Valorant and a little bit of League of Legends from time to time.
All right. Horde or Alliance?
Oh, Alliance, but to be honest, I play both on different servers, you know. But yeah, Alliance first and foremost.
I'm right there with you. I've had my human
Absolutely.
warrior since vanilla.
First, I started off with a Ret Paladin. That was my first character, named after myself, of course.
Of course. All right. Now, if you had to pick one game that's your all-time favorite, which one would it be?
Oh man, my all-time favorite game. This is interesting. I love the Call of Duty series. And I love Madden. I'm trying to think of like the one game when I was in my teenage years, I love this racing games, and one of them that I really love was the Dub Academy, or not Is it? I can't remember what was it called exactly, but it was like a racing game made by a wheel manufacturer, and it was really fun. My very, very favorite game. You're asking me a hard question, Bradford.
While you're pondering it, I have to say, it blows my mind that this is such a tough question for gamers. Like, you asked me, I could tell you like my one or two. It's either Chrono Trigger or Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, just because they're just like the perfect games.
Yeah. I gotta say the game that I played the longest is World of Warcraft. Has been there throughout pretty much my whole life, and outside of I played Warcraft, then I got onto World of Warcraft. That whole series has always been there. I think that's my favorite game. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Okay. Now let's hop over to the preneur part. You kind of gave us a brief rundown of your history and what you do now, but can you kind of go a little bit more in depth into your professional background and how you ended up where you're at today, please?
Yeah. So I did mention I'm in Austin, Texas. So how I got into business is interesting. I graduated from the University of Hawaii. I was living in Colorado with my parents for a couple of years in Colorado Springs. I worked, like I said, for television for a little bit, and also for the music industry out there. I started to get this idea that I wanted to get into business. There was a project that was going on for teaching young kids acting, television, and whatnot. And so I started a company called Colorado Springs Young Thespians when I was in when I was when I was still in Colorado Springs. That was my first business, and really what my goal was to make a nonprofit, but you have to learn a lot of how nonprofits work, 501c3s and stuff like that. And I didn't know. I was 21 years old when I tried to attempt that. And I learned that it was a lot more about who you know than what you know when it came to making a nonprofit. And also the same in for-profit businesses, but a little bit different. So I got into the gig economy after I left television, and I moved back down to Austin. I started really a podcast, but eventually turned into a business called Austin Live and Local, where I interviewed local artists, brands, and events. And we ended up hosting an event and hosting a couple different events and working with sponsors, which kind of got me into another business in which I was a club promoter and a bartender and a lot of other different things. And I work with artists and musicians and fashion moguls and all these different people in that on that side of business and that side of the entertainment business. Eventually I started collecting a little bit of equipment, hardware in the camera department and in sound and all this stuff to host these podcasts, that I was like, look, I have all this equipment. Why don't I, help other people create content? And so I started a company called Cyber City Media, which originally, this is so nuanced, is that originally was going to be Cyber City Records because I had a bunch of music equipment at that time. And I was going to start a record label with a few different people that I was working with at the time. Ended up pivoting that because I had the camera equipment too, to doing video production and podcast production and sort of also audiobook production and anything related to audio and video, and also some social media management stuff. Not really on the marketing side and advertising side, but more of like just management and contacting people back if they message and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, and then that kind of developed because I was able to go to South by Southwest Gaming and also DreamHack and Classic Games Fest and some anime conventions here around the Austin area and in Texas. To what I am working on today is my it's really my side project, but it's still one of my main projects. Between the video production work that I do for clients is Esports Business Network, and it's taken me into places that I never thought I'd be at.
Wonderful. Okay, please
Yeah.
tell us about the Esports Business Network.
Yeah. So the Esports Business Network, in September of 2019 was founded, not to be confused with the Esports Business Network in Malaysia, but I started it in 2019. I started interviewing people. Really, branding wise, it started then, but it started a little bit earlier with my, integrations into the conventions and whatnot as DreamHack, South by Southwest, and really geek and nerd culture in all different ways, and anime as well. So I interviewed some people, streamers, players, owners, marketers, advertisers, coaches, all of that stuff. And so as it came to fruition in September 2019, it was a way to connect esports business professionals in a way that didn't really exist. People in the esports business are on different platforms. They might just be a Twitter person. They might just be a Facebook person, LinkedIn. They just might exist online somewhere else. And offline, I've met a ton of people who have no online presence and are just, esports professionals offline, just trying to get into business, just establishing their online presence. And so, Esports Business Network, really what the goal is to be, and what it is and the why behind it is to embody diversity and inclusion in esports. It's something that it really needs to be pushed for, like real diversity and inclusion versus like the conversation around it. And also the empowerment for people that feel like that esports isn't for them, or that business is hard, or that there's not an avenue for people. So that's kind of in the thread or the fabric of Esports Business Network, because myself, um I didn't enter the industry the easy way. I know there are a lot of people who've struggled with getting into esports because they weren't the best player. I wouldn't say I was the best player. I mean, I played in cash games, but I never got into tournaments. So Esports Business Network is a platform with ebn.gg where people can connect and meet other entrepreneurs at all different skill levels, and hopefully collaborate and do business with one another to improve their career and their professional lives in esports.
Fantastic. Now, what are some of the challenges you're seeing or that certain esports businesses are having when it comes to managing and running their businesses?
Yeah, so I would say mostly it's having the tools to do business. A lot of people are struggling with how to communicate. Like I said, some people have no social media presence. They have no they've got no business phone. They've got no business email. Like there's a lot of very um, you know, easy things that someone could accomplish to start doing representing themselves in business, whether that be a streamer who plays in tournaments, or uh, um, a, organization owner that is, new to the business and looking to find players. There's just a way that business is conducted that I think that esports definitely lacks. A lot of Gmail accounts, a lot of, home phone numbers, and, you know, um, and no websites. There's a lot of those things going on in the space. Um, but largely, I think the challenge is mindset. So a lot of people get the idea that they want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner or team owner. They don't even not even think of it as being a business owner. Reality, the team owner aspect, they just want to have a brand or something like that. And so it's a little bit of mindset, getting that in your head, that what you're doing has value and that someone needs what you have.
Fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
now on your end of things, how is
Mhm.
it trying to balance this brand of your own EBN along with your other business? Like, is it sometimes difficult to, like, one day this one takes over, or like how's that working?
Yeah, so it is very challenging. And the only way that I've been able to balance is being very transparent with my clients, and saying, look, like, I have an esports business network business, and I also have a video production business. And um, doing both, sometimes, I've got to say, hey, look, I can't accept this contract because I'm working on this business, because I know the value that esports and esports business network has for the esports and gaming industry. I know what I'm doing is meaningful and has a purpose. Um and sometimes, that can get in the way, spending too much time on the side project versus doing working on building capital in the other business. But there's a fine line between burnout and um and making sure that you're taking care of your needs. um and so if you if you're working yourself to the bone to make a dollar, and at the end of the day you can't get out of bed because your back hurts, probably should slow down on on working so hard, and find something else to work on. And that's sort of what Esports Business Network is for me. And because I've found myself sometimes working so hard for a dollar that, I've um, been bedridden, been in, sick, because, you're in environments like, uh, I've been a landscaper before. I've been a lot of different things, just working to your fingers to the bone, with the fingernails to the bone. And yeah, you have to have a healthy work-life balance. And Esports Business Network is definitely a business, but it's also, very much what I like to do with my life.
Okay, so you don't subscribe to the grind, 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 hustle, hustle lifestyle then?
Some people might say I do, but I like to be optimistic, and, about that. I like to think, I like to think that I'm having fun while I do it, and that the hustle, hustle, grind, grind thing can sometimes become negative, and so I like to think that, um, I like to think I'm just doing it right, but I definitely do say that from time to time, that hustle hard, grind hard, I am a grinder for sure. I am someone that goes, tries to do 115%. That goes back to when I was playing American football in high school, and being told, 115% is the best, 100% isn't enough.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Trent, what if someone wanted to do what you were doing? So you have a media
Yeah.
company, you've got this podcast. What
Mhm.
steps would somebody have to take in order to be able to follow in your footsteps here?
Well, I think the world has changed a lot, especially since the pandemic and whatnot, and a lot of online mediums have taken off. You can pretty much learn anything you want to learn online. I went down the road of going to university and learning the trade or the skill from university of video production. But now I would say you can, if you're well, given the situation, it's best that you do it online. You learn from YouTube, or you subscribe to Full Sail or something like that, and get the certificate. It is good to have the certificate. Largely the reason why someone will go to the university is because they want that social engagement. They want to hang out with people that are going to university, and so that's why I went, of course. And of course, I wanted to learn something. I didn't know what I was wanting to learn. I didn't know what I was wanting to learn when I got into university, but I did eventually figure that out. Um, but on For that being said, the way that video production works now, you just need to be able to create content, publish it on YouTube, publish it on your website, um, use social media to grow your audience, and make content that you would want brands to recognize you for. So, um, a hack that's something that I've learned recently is, if you want to do business with Nike, you make a Nike commercial. You might remove the branding or whatnot, but you put together a commercial. You use Facebook. You target those ads at employees of Facebook or employees of Nike. My bad. I'm targeted at employees of Nike. Someone at Nike discovers that you've been wanting to do, that you've been creating a really good content. They hire you to be, on their creative team. That's one way. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But yeah, if you want to start your own business, learn business first and foremost. And then something that, Bradford and I were talking before we went on air was about building an audience before you start to sell to the audience. It's a little different with corporations, but it's about the same. It's about the same when it comes to B2C. So if you're wanting to sell products to your audience or work with affiliate marketing, definitely build the audience first. And then if you want to get into the esports coaching, analyst, shoutcaster, anything in esports, uh, you have to be in a culture of people that are thinking about esports, that are working to build presence in esports, and just make sure that you're involved. I mean, the Esports Business Network, not to, shameless plug, but I mean, we're really just professionals that want to do business in esports, and we support each other along the way, community wise, in accomplishing those goals. And so you really need a support group or a community, even a coach that like Bradford, to help you and guide you in the right direction.
I didn't pay him to say that. Thank you, Trent.
Shoot, I wish you did pay me to
I
say
want to make
that.
this about you, though. It's not supposed to be about me. This show is not supposed to be about me. So, how about this? You have this incredible network. You've got this incredible business going on,
Yeah.
but you only started a few years ago, right?
Yep.
Okay. If you could go back in time and you could
Mhm.
tell yourself kind of the tips and tricks, the little things you learned along the way, and all of
Mhm.
the information you wish you had known way back then, if you could go back in time and tell a little Trent all of that,
Yeah.
what is the number one thing you wish you could tell yourself?
Yeah. So it really goes really far back, but in 2009, you will not. This is like something I tell people, and 2009, I opened my Twitter account. 2008, I was on Ustream. I was like 16 years old. Like looking back now, if I could have gone back to then, I would have started streaming back then. And I would have had so much content, like archive content repost now. Like I think one of the reasons why a soda poppin is so big, because he's also an Austin native, is because he's been streaming since back in 2000 and like I think 9 or 10 when he started. And he started on Xfire, if I remember correctly, and then got on Twitch later on. And he has archive content, that he could be reposting Throwback Thursdays of that content. And I don't know, like thinking back then, I wish I had that. I wish I had the business skills and tools to be able to have understood it. But back then, I was much more of like I was, a young kid. I'm sure if you asked Soda Pop, he'd be like, I don't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was just doing it. And I was much more of a chase girls, go to parties kind of guy. You know what I mean? I wish I had told myself, yo, if you commit yourself to streaming and gaming content creation, you'd be somewhere totally different. But, you live and you learn. And, this is something I think I like about Gary Vee is like, it's never too late to start. Like you never think you're too old to get started, right? Even though there's all these Gen Z and young folks and some older folks even look at us millennials like we're like these, crazy instant gratification people. It's like it's never too late to get started. That's the thing. Like it's never too late.
Wonderful. All right. Now, Trent, a little more specifically about you.
Yeah.
What makes you good at what you do? Is it a unique skill, a talent? Like if someone's trying to follow in your footsteps, they kind of have to be like you. What is it that makes
Yeah.
you you?
I guess I'm someone who never gives up. I don't know if that entirely true, but I've definitely quit before. I would say that I'm a pretty straightforward person as far as like business is concerned. Personal stuff I might not be as straightforward. I think, you know, when I got into playing video games for cash was during my freshman year. Well, a little bit earlier than that because I played, back in the day, you could play cash games on Texas Hold'em on Poker Stars and stuff like that. And I did that for a while before it got banned in like 2008, and then it came back sort of with America's Card House. Anyway, nonetheless, when I was playing cash games for like FIFA, NBA 2K, Madden, those games, because they're console, it's easy to bet people on whether you're going to be the best or whatever. Um, you know, I was always consistent, but um, thinking back then, if I could think about how the think if I knew what I knew today, now thinking it's sort of answering again the question you asked previously, I think I would have gotten into organized esports. Um, I definitely was in the underground esports scene, which wasn't, you know, the regulated esports scene of hosted tournaments. But yeah, I think that experience, taking that and because I didn't do that, I now know what how you can have kind of the best of both worlds in a way in the overall industry of esports. Um, and so that comes down to being persistent at wanting to see your success. So I think I have an attribute of persistence, um, flexibility, because you gotta deal with um, things that come up, random things that come up, and And it's just like a sort of an overall sense of optimism, like that things will be okay. Things are good. Yeah.
All right, I
Yeah.
love it. Now, a little more personally, I want to dig deep into you here. So, Trent, I believe that we learn the most in our life from our failures, not necessarily our successes, because you can
Yeah.
succeed, have no idea what
Yeah.
happened, right? Like, but when you fail, you have to figure out what happens. You have to be able to move past it in order to go on and to succeed. So, I'd like
Yeah.
to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, biggest failures in life. So I have a lot of failures in life. So when I was 17, I was arrested for assault. Um, and it has very much impacted who I am in a lot of ways. Got I got in a fight with my dad, and I got I made the mistake of thinking that the judicial system was in the citizens' favor. By no means as it is, because the judicial system, this is a whole nother thing. One of my clients is in prison reform, um, is a for-profit business, like most of them are, even for the ones that are regulated by the government. So I got caught in this situation, had to pay a $500 fine, got, put in jail. But the impacts of that have been, lost job opportunities, a lot of different things. Not as much of an impact now. It's been 11 years. Haven't been arrested for anything since, you know. Um, that was one. Going to university originally, I was a real big partier. I didn't pay attention to my studies that much, failed some classes, had to retake those classes. That was another one. That was a costly one. That one was a lot more expensive than going to jail. Um, yeah, and then after having gone through those two things, I think I got kind of back on a normal path. I've been neglected by the system for a long time, whether it be the sports the sports system where you're playing football and the coach doesn't necessarily see you as a valuable asset on the team, doesn't give you enough playing time, whatever the situation may be, which leads to you not being able to go to college based on a sports scholarship. um those things happen. I got jumped when I was 20 when I was 23. I got jumped outside of my house in Colorado Springs. That was a life-changing moment. Some random guy from a bar that I had just left followed me home, said I was talking to his girlfriend, um, and jumped me at my own house, but whatever. Lost my job from there, from the television company. Then I came to Austin and came back home. Went and I tried to make it in the music industry and all of this, put a lot of investment into it, spent a lot of money um, trying to make it, like being an entrepreneur. Failure after failure after failure, from being a bartender to being an Uber driver to all these different things. Um, just a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma. And sleeping on, man, this is where one of my other colleagues and I relate a lot. Is I was sleeping in my car while I was driving Postmates and Uber and stuff like that. Ended up couch surfing for a while in 2017 to 2018. um and just going through it, like just going through life. Then I met a good colleague of mine, and I feel like uh listening to his experience is a little different. My buddy Knives Monroe, he was homeless in Austin for almost 2 years or something like that. And his story is much more extravagant than mine is. But uh yeah, I just for every step forward, I felt like I had two steps backward. Um and so yeah, that has all really shaped how I approach business, how I approach people, how I look at the macro and micro of society. And and how I operate. And what has afforded me is the opportunity to not be taken advantage of in a lot of situations. Um, Whereas I've met a lot of people who've never really faced adversity, never had trauma in their life. And as a result, they've they've been very they end up being very rude and not very nice to other people, and that's sort of, it can be, if you've never been reprimanded, if you've never been if no one's ever called you out for your poor behaviors and how you treat others, you may think that that behavior is okay as an adult, as a child. We face a lot of issues in the gaming industry and we call it toxicity, but in reality it's just the way that people interact with each other. But yeah, I've had a lot of failures and and trauma, but yeah, I have an optimistic outlook for how things go.
For
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us. On the flip side, what is something you're working to improve on yourself today?
What am I looking to improve on myself today? Definitely getting to know how the game works. Um, my last statements are very much that the society is rigged against minorities and people of color or women, people of different sexual orientations. It's just rigged against them. So learning how to start if you can start your own business and you can make that business successful, um it's like a cheat code in too many ways for how to be successful in life. And one of the, that's sort of what I am working on the most. I'm definitely working on being a more empathetic person and understanding and seeing where people come from. um and it could be internationally has come up a lot because of the virtual world that we live in on Zooms and Facebooks and social media. But back to what I was trying to say is that um with the way that housing works, and the way that you're kind of penalized for being an employee, and you're penalized for all these different reasons based on tax codes and all this stuff. But this is sort of heady stuff for the average person that just wants to you know um retire and go to the Bahamas. I don't know, or go on cruise ships. I don't know what that person's lifestyle looks like, because mine is definitely entrepreneurial, um trying to make the best out of life every single day. um I want to say I want to travel more. I want to explore the world a lot. That's something. Yeah, being more educated, um educate myself more through YouTube and stuff like that. I don't know. That's sort of what I think about that question.
Beautiful. All right, Trent, this has been a fantastic interview. How do people find you? Where are you out in social media, contact information, all that, please?
Absolutely. So this is the Gamerpreneur podcast, of course. I also host my own podcast, the Esports Business Network podcast, on pretty much all the platforms. And with that, there's also the communities that are associated with Esports Business Network on Facebook and on the Discord, which you can go to discord.ebn.gg. You can go to ebn.gg to connect with other esports business professionals. My production company, Cyber City Media, if you're in the Austin area, we work mostly in audio, video, and social media production. So feel free to reach out to my team and we can get that squared away. But if you just want to learn about me and see my daily life and everything that I do, and hopefully, I was talking with Bradford a little bit before this, I'll eventually get to the point at which I can, stream more gaming content. You can find me at Trent Knox TV or at Trent Knox on pretty much all the platforms. And so Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, Instagram. Yeah,
Wonderful.
that's where you can find me.
All right. Now, as we're wrapping this up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share, or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
Absolutely not. This is a great show, very well coordinated. I've been looking forward to being on the show for a long time. Ever since I discovered your show on YouTube, I wanted to be on it. And finally it came to fruition. I've been very busy, and one of our colleagues, and I really recommend the listeners who haven't listened to the Johnny Weaver episode, go back and listen to Johnny Weaver's episode on the Gamerpreneur. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. I genuinely do appreciate you taking the time to come on with me today.
Awesome.
All right. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.